Welcome to the 36th Annual Mississippi College Academic Competition. The competition began the year with 26 teams from high schools from across the state. Teams are matched in a quiz bowl-like competition, utilizing questions developed for and tested for the high school level. Our goal is to recognize academic knowledge, to encourage learning, and to foster the spirit of competition and fair play. We have reached the semifinals. This match features East Rankin Academy versus Park Lane Academy. Let's meet the teams.
East Rankin, Will Price, sophomore.
Baron Burnham, junior.
Tyler Butts, senior.
Ethan Crane, senior.
I'm from Park Lane Academy. I'm Joseph Willis, and I'm a junior.
Mackenzie Charles, and I'm a senior.
Luke Borman, and I'm a senior.
Mana Sharma, senior.
Mia Montalvo, senior. Meehan Bradford, junior.
Kirkland Bridges, senior.
Our first toss-up question of round one. For 5 points, which conic section is associated with the terms center and radius?
Park Lane, Menace.
Circle.
Yes.
Correct. For 10 points, name the thick paste of mashed avocado served.
Park Lane, Menace.
Guacamole.
Yes.
For 10 points, which term derived from the Greek for tale designates a long narrative poem or prose work recounting adventures in the life of a central hero or heroine?
East Rankin, Will.
Ballad.
No. Park Lane, Mackenzie.
Ode.
No.
Epic is the term we were looking for. A 10-point toss-up. By what name did the strict puritanical laws to enforce moral standards of colonial New England become known? Probably because of the color of the paper on which they were printed.
Park Lane, Menace.
Blue laws.
Yes.
Correct. A math question for 10 points. The square root of 121 decreased by the square root of 49 is equal to the square root of which positive integer?
East Rankin, Tyler.
16.
Yes.
A 20-point toss-up. Through which pass, whose name means hot gates, did Xerxes lead his forces in?
Park Lane, Menace.
Thermopylae.
Yes.
For 5 points. Acclaimed musician Joshua Bell paid nearly $4 million for the Gibson Stradivarius dating to 1713. Which type of instrument is that?
Park Lane, Luke.
Violin.
Yes.
For 15 points. Identify the Southeast Asian country that is divided by the South China Sea into two regions about 400 miles apart.
Park Lane, Menace.
Malaysia.
Yes.
For 10 points. What term designates the male sex cells in plants?
East Rankin, Tyler.
Pollen.
Yes.
For 10 points. To which U.S. president was Italian physician and merchant Filippo Mazzei a friend and informal advisor? Mazzei is credited with originating the phrase, all men are created equal, that this leader used in the Declaration of
East Rankin, Ethan.
Jefferson.
Yes.
For 10 points, name the strong, lightweight hemisphere made of a framework of triangular segments and having no internal supports. This structure is sometimes part of
East Rankin, Will.
TB.
No.
Sometimes part of sports arenas.
Park Lane, Luke.
Dome.
More specific. No.
Geodesic dome is what we're looking for. Have one on campus here. For 10 points, identify Chilean writer Isabel Allende's seventh book, a cookbook of Epicurean delights named for the Greek goddess of love and beauty.
Park Lane, Menace.
Aphrodite.
Yes.
A math question for 10 points. If three consecutive odd integers have a sum of 147, then what would be the sum of the two even integers that lie between these three odd integers?
East Rankin, Tyler.
98.
Correct?
Yes.
A toss-up for 10 points. Which word designates all of the following? To prevent someone from talking, the front end of the barrel of a gun, and a device put over an animal's mouth.
Park Lane Academy, Mackenzie.
Muzzle.
Yes.
Correct? For 10 points. Identify the isotope of hydrogen with twice the mass of ordinary hydrogen.
East Rankin, Tyler.
Deuterium.
Yes.
For 15 points. Which city, Russia's second largest, celebrated
Park Lane Academy, Menace.
St. Petersburg.
Yes.
a math question for 10 points. On the Fahrenheit scale, how many degrees warmer is a temperature that is 18 degrees below freezing than a temperature that is 18 degrees below zero?
Park Lane, Luke.
32.
Yes.
For 10 points, identify the two African countries whose names end in the letters DA.
Park Lane, Mackenzie.
Rwanda and Uganda.
Yes.
Correct. For 10 points, identify the late jazz trumpeter who in 1969 established the educational foundation that gave $1 million to Jazz at Lincoln Center in New York in 1998 to bring together jazz and children. He was
Park Lane Academy, Mackenzie.
Louis Armstrong.
Yes.
correct. For 15 points, which two-word term designates the mean distance from the Earth to the Sun and is abbreviated?
East Rankin, Tyler.
Astronomical unit.
Yes.
A math question for 10 points. What is the value? Cannot finish that question. That's the end of round one. I'll be back in a moment with the preliminary score. At the end of round one, our score is East Rankin 65, Park Lane 130. Let's proceed to round two. Our first toss-up is worth 20 points. Identify the American author whose 1917 novel, A Princess of Mars, tells the story of John Carter, who is magically transported to Mars where he rescues the beautiful princess Dejah Thoris from the Tharks. He also created the fictional Tarzan.
East Rankin, Ethan.
Kipling.
No.
No.
Park Lane, Mackenzie.
James.
No, Edgar Rice Burroughs is one fella. Math question for 10 points. Two cars heading toward each other are 250 miles apart. If one car travels 45 miles per hour and the other 10 miles per hour faster, how many hours will it be before they pass each other?
East Rankin, Tyler.
2 3/11.
No. Park Lane, Menace.
2 hours.
No.
2.5 hours. A 10-point toss-up. Which city in southern Arizona, the state's second largest, is bordered on the east and west by the Saguaro National Monument established in 1933?
East Rankin, Ethan.
Tucson.
Yes.
For 10 points, identify the buildings. Oh, I'm sorry, we have bonus questions. Here's your bonus question. Complete the title of each of the following Jane Austen novels. For 5 points, Sense and.
Sensibility. Sensibility.
Yes.
For 10 points, Pride and.
Prejudice.
Yes.
For 15 points, Northanger.
Any guesses?
Manor.
No.
For 15 points,
Abbey.
Yes.
Abbey it is. Back to a toss-up question, finally. For 10 points, identify the building ornament Thomas Hardy describes in these lines from Far From the Madding Crowd. It was too human to be called like a dragon, too impish.
Park Lane, Mackenzie.
Gargoyle.
Yes.
Correct. Here is your bonus question. Identify the terms used in soccer for the following. For 5 points, pushing the ball on the run with your feet, a term also used in basketball.
Dribbling.
Yes.
For 10 points, to push the ball through a defender's legs, a word also designating a hard aromatic seed that is grated and used as a spice.
Nutmeg.
Yes.
For 15 points, which two-word term, both parts of which begin with the letter G, designates a winning shot in sudden death overtime and was first used for such in the 1998 World Cup soccer finals?
Golden goal.
Yes.
And for 20 points, three-letter term for an international appearance for one's country.
Cap.
Yes.
That's correct. Here is your next toss-up question for 10 points. Identify the government agency known as FEMA.
Park Lane, Menace.
Federal Emergency and Medical Aid.
No.
No. You have to buzz in if you want to answer. Time, Federal Emergency Management Agency. A 10-point toss-up. Of the vowels A, E, I, O, and U, Which two do not stand for the symbols of any chemical element?
Park Lane, Luke.
A and E.
Correct. Here is your bonus question. Identify each of the following by giving an answer beginning with the letter J. For 5 points, God of the Old Testament.
Jehovah.
Yes.
For 10 points, wild dog of Asia, Africa, and Southeastern Europe called the howler by Arabs.
Jackal.
Yes.
For 15 points, common name of a type of sea animal biologists call a medusa.
Jellyfish.
Yes.
And for 20 points, Jackson is a state capital beginning with the letter J. Name the 2 other state capital cities with names beginning with J.
Jefferson and Juneau. Jefferson City and Juneau.
All right, good. Back to a toss-up question for 10 points. Which name is given to the fine, usually green crust formed by natural oxidation on bronze as it ages?
East Rankin, Will.
Rust.
No.
You still have a chance to answer on this side. Time. Patina is the word that we were looking for. That's the end of round 2. We'll be back in a moment with a preliminary score. At the end of our second round of competition, the score: East Rankin 90, Park Lane 265. Here's the first toss-up of round 3. For 10 points, identify the Italian island in the Mediterranean Sea that the Romans conquered and made their first province about 240 BC. It is the largest island in the
Park Lane, Menace.
Sicily.
Yes.
Sicily is correct. Here is your bonus question. According to the American Film Institute in 2018, the number 3 ranked film villain is Darth Vader. Identify each of the following American Film Institute's top ranked villains by naming the first movie where this villain appeared. The first movie. For 5 points, Cruella de Vil.
101 Dalmatians.
Yes.
That's correct. For 10 points, Norman Bates.
Psycho.
Yes.
For 15 points, Hannibal Lecter.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
All right. And for 20 points, Nurse Ratched. Need an answer, please.
Goldfinger.
No. For 20 points, East Rankin.
Misery.
Yeah, the answer is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. A 10-point toss-up. In 2003, Robert stole a painting in Scotland attributed to Leonardo da Vinci showing the Virgin Mary with Jesus holding a cross-shaped spindle. In art, what name from Italian for My Lady is used for Mary, the mother of Jesus?
Park Lane, Luke.
Piet.
No. East Rankin, Barron.
Mona.
No.
No, Madonna. A 10-point toss-up. Which element has the lowest melting point of any metallic element, negative 38 degrees Fahrenheit?
East Rankin, Tyler.
Selenium.
No. Park Lane, Menace.
Barium.
No.
Mercury. A 20-point toss-up. Name the South American capital in the Andean highlands just south of the equator and connected by rail and road with the port of Guayaquil, the country's largest city.
Park Lane, Menace.
Quito.
Yes.
Quito it is. Back to a toss-up question. Identify each of the following concerning Germany and German. For 5 points, German name for Germany.
Deutschland.
Yes.
For 10 points, Empire, the Nazis established on March the 23rd, 1933, known as the national government of the Third Blank.
Reich.
Yes.
For 15 points, identify the word for traitor, derived from the name of the Norwegian who collaborated with the Germans and was executed by the Norwegians October 24th, 1945.
Quisling.
Yes.
And for 20 points, small alpine plant whose name in German means noble white. Need an answer, please?
Arian.
No.
No, for 20 points.
That's like the Austrian thing.
Edelweiss.
Yes.
Edelweiss it is. Here is a toss-up for 10 points, a math question. Simplify, or write in simplest form, the cube root of 1,024.
East Rankin, Tyler.
8 times the cube root of 2.
That is
Yes.
correct. Here's your bonus question. Answer each of the following concerning literature. For 5 points, which Shakespearean play is named after a storm at sea?
Tempest.
Yes.
For 10 points, who wrote the historical novel The White Company, the short story The Red-Headed League, and the detective story A Study in Scarlet?
Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yes.
Correct. For 15 points, the phrase albatross around the neck, meaning a burden, is based on which 1798 work by Samuel Taylor Coleridge?
Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
Yes.
Correct. And for 20 points, which English writer used Boz as a pen name?
No answer.
For 20 points, Park Lane. You still can answer.
Just go for it. Just go for it. Say something.
Charlotte Bronte.
No, Charles Dickens is that one. All right. That's the end of our third round of competition. We'll be back in a moment with the preliminary score. At the end of 3 rounds of competition, the score East Rankin 150, Park Lane 355. Let's go on to our final round. First question is for 10 points. Give the more common name for ferric oxide.
East Rankin, Tyler.
Rust.
Yes.
For 5 points, identify either the Greek god of fields, flocks, and shepherds, or its reverse,
East Rankin, Tyler.
Demeter.
No.
the verb,
Park Lane, Manus.
Chronos.
No.
no, pan or nap was going to be the answer. For 10 points, which Italian word meaning foam designates an Italian ice cream having layers of different flavors
Park Lane, Luke.
Gelato.
No.
and often containing fruits and nuts?
East Rankin, Ethan.
Sorbet.
No.
Spumoni. For 15 points, identify the capital of the Holy Roman Empire whose name is used as a symbol for a holy city of the imagination in the title of the William Butler Yeats poem, Sailing to Blank.
Park Lane, Manus.
Constantinople.
No. East Rankin, Ethan.
Frankfurt.
No.
Byzantium. A 20-point toss-up. Name the famous Italian operatic tenor who made his American debut in 1903.
Park Lane, Manus.
Oh, I'm sorry. No answer.
Time, correct answer, Enrico Caruso. A math question for 10 points. If there are 1,000 votes in an election and one of the 2 candidates gets 60% of them, by how many votes does he win?
Park Lane, Luke.
200.
Yes.
A 10-point toss-up. The English Civil War began when the King's supporters withdrew from Parliament and the House of Commons was split into 2 groups, Presbyterians, who were moderate supporters of King Charles I, and Independents, who wanted to control the king and were backed in their goal by which leader of the army?
Park Lane, Manus.
Oliver Cromwell.
Yes.
Correct. For 15 points, which city outranks Mexico City as the most populous city in the Western Hemisphere?
Park Lane, Manus.
New York City.
No.
And is the largest city in South America?
East Rankin, Ethan.
Sao Paulo.
Yes.
For 10 points, which Italian word meaning soup designates a thick vegetable soup containing vermicelli, barley, etc. in a meat broth?
Park Lane, Manus.
Fagioli.
No. East Rankin, Ethan.
Soup.
Minestrone is the word we're looking for. A math question for 10 points. How many digits are used to write all of the days in January on a calendar?
Lane, Luke.
51.
No. East Rankin, Tyler.
73.
53. A 10-point toss-up. Which Greek epic begins 10 years into the wandering of its hero just before he arrives home?
Park Lane, Mackenzie.
The Odyssey.
No. East Rankin, Tyler.
Iliad.
No.
Ulysses is what we're looking for. For 10 points, identify the planet whose geographic features are named for famous women, such as Colette and Sacagawea. Its lowest point, the Rift Valley, called Diana Chasma, and its extreme lowland bases, called Atalanta Planitia, are named after goddesses.
Park Lane, Menace.
Venus.
Yes.
Correct. For 20 points, which two terms derived from weaving are used to designate the essential foundation of any organization? One of these terms identifies the threads running lengthwise in a woven fabric, and the other the threads running across. Time, warp, and woof, a math question for 10 points. If the sum of the first odd positive integers is n, what is the sum of the first 8 even positive integers?
East Rankin, Tyler.
N plus 8.
Correct? For 10 points. Which word designates all of the following? A device that helps to soften the shock of a blow, a person that lessens the shock between antagonistic forces, a computer storage area, and a solution that will resist a change in pH.
Park Lane, Menace.
Buffer.
Yes.
Correct. For 20 points. Identify the first German painter and engraver to become a success outside the country.
East Rankin, Will.
Albert Dürer.
Yes.
And for 20 points, for 10 points, which Italian word meaning small designates a small shrill flute sounding?
Nope.
That's the end of our competition. We'll be back in a moment with the final score. At the conclusion of our competition, the score is East Rankin 305, Park Lane 395. So Park Lane will advance to the finals.